Welcome to the Jack Hakimian Podcast, where we dive deep into life, embracing the contrast. Yeah, from culture to faith, art to finances, politics and everything in between. We're taking chances. Jack Hakimian Podcast, we shine a light, exploring all the life from day to night. Nothing is off the table, we keep it real. Diverse perspectives, the truth we reveal.
All right. Well, welcome to the Jack Hakimian Podcast. I'm excited today. We're going to be sitting down with Rodolphe Pierre-Louis, the award-winning entrepreneur, filmmaker, and founder and CEO of ActionVFX, the leading company providing visual effects, stock footage for major productions like Stranger Things, Avengers Endgame, and Call of Duty, and a lot more. In fact, you can learn more about it as you go to his website, and you can see that in the descriptions. So today, again, I love this gentleman. I met him while he was, I think, in his first few years of college, studying film at Miami-Dade College, and he has an incredible story. He's been an inspiration to me, and I've seen what tenacity, perseverance, and hard work does. And again, I think he's relevant, especially as conversations about Haiti are coming up these days. Everyone's interested in Haitians and how they landed in the Midwest. But they've been here, folks. They've been in New York and Boston and Miami since the 60s and 70s. And today he's here to share his story of struggle, of triumph, of faith, and entrepreneurship. So again, I want to welcome to you guys, Rodolphe. How you doing, my brother?
Doing well. How are you?
Man, I'm super blessed, man. And I'm really excited that you're here. I've been trying to get you to join me on this podcast for a long time, but you're so super busy now and you're super important. And that's exciting, man. Rodolphe, you're from Haiti. You were in Miami for part of your life. Tell me a little bit about where the journey began for you and your family.
Yeah, so originally from Haiti, that's where I was born and raised. And, being in Haiti, like my parents were always involved in missions work. My dad was a pastor. He was running a church at one point and then eventually transitioned to just being in missions and stuff. And yeah, with the journey, obviously I'm really into film and entrepreneurship. The whole film thing kind of started when I was 10. So we've always had some family in Miami, and I remember my dad went to visit them, and then when he came back to Haiti, he brought home a video camera. So that's kind of how the whole thing started. Like, man, I can make movies and stuff, and immediately got some friends together and made something. And yeah, so that was always like, that's where the passion really started. And then when I was 12, we ended up moving to the U.S., to Knoxville, Tennessee. So that's where we had landed. And so spent 4 years in Knoxville, then moved to Johnson City, Tennessee, which is a smaller town. Then, of course, moved to Miami. That's where went to college at Miami-Dade, and that's where I met you and stuff. And really, a lot of what I'm doing now really started there too. Always been pretty entrepreneurial as a person, which is kind of funny because when I was in middle school, when we just moved here from Haiti, so didn't really speak English that well, was a super shy kid, but somehow I started selling gum in middle school, right? So it's like there was always that thing where
true Haitian entrepreneur.
Right? It's like, hey, people love gum. This is like currency in middle school. So let's turn this into actual currency. So that's something I did until the school shut me down and stuff, but that's another story. But it's so yeah, I've always loved film, always loved entrepreneurship at a young age. After high school, when it was time to try to go to college, it was very obvious that this was something that I would have to contribute a lot to. Like, I mean, my parents did help, obviously, but they didn't have a full ride or anything like that. So a lot of it was just paid out of pocket, which is when it felt, okay, I need money. How do I do this? And that's when I had the idea to, use my filmmaking skills that I've been growing throughout high school to mostly freelance doing like music videos and commercials and stuff. And I did a few of those in Miami as well. So that's kind of how all that got started. And then eventually many steps later, I'll kind of pause and allow you to ask more questions, but obviously Action VFX happened. And
Yeah.
but
And again, I'm definitely excited. And I think everyone's going to be excited to hear about like those first steps when you transition from like being this, guy that was making videos for like rappers and upcoming, weddings and church events. And I'm used to do camera work for our church and just this scrappy entrepreneur, right? Just trying to, and I think when you moved to Tennessee, there was a shift, and I definitely want to find out more like what that pivot was, like when did the light bulb go on, like VFX is the future. What were some of the but back to film, like what was it about film and the camera, right? Like and just video, like working with Final Cut Pro and Adobe Premiere, like what was it about that whole process that really captivated you, captured you? Because that's, I think, something like it's available to everyone, but not everyone is captivated by it. It's like a basketball. Not everyone goes out like Steph Curry every day. Like, what was it about that?
Yeah, I would say telling stories. That's always been a huge thing. And it's like with me, film was always one of my favorite pastimes as a kid, and loved the idea of forgetting the real world exists and just getting lost into a story. So really, when my dad brought home that camera, like the immediate thing was, oh, it's like that thing that I love so much. I now have an ability to actually do one of those. And I remember when I got my friends together, we made like some short film about a bicycle thief and whatnot. But it was just like funny stuff like that. But it was really seeing, oh, I do have the ability to really tell a story and entertain people. Like that's always been, to me, first and foremost, a movie needs to be entertaining. You can tell a message, you can really move the audience, but first and foremost, you can't be boring. You have to be entertaining, and that's one thing that drives that. And I remember when we moved to the States, I got started learning visual effects when I was 14, and at that time, I knew about like effects and green screens and all that stuff, but I didn't really think too much on what the process was until I was 14. I would have been in 2006. So I was like, oh wait, like there is software out there that I could learn and do this, on our home computer. And so that's kind of when the whole journey into visual effects started. Like I'd go to Walmart and try to convince my mom to buy me some green fabric so that I could try and do some green screens and stuff like that. And so really, I was really that nerdy kid in high school trying out many different things. And when I moved to Miami, it was very good. It was a great city for, the music videos and stuff like that I was doing, and allowed me to really learn a lot more in terms of, not just business, but also how to leverage different lenses and lighting to get different looks of stuff, which all ended up contributing to Action VFX. But the true Action VFX journey, I would say, started was in 2011. So I started this YouTube channel to essentially do visual effects tutorials and stuff. There's this software used to call Hit Film, and it just came out, and I was like, hey, I'm going to be the first third-party person making tutorials for this, which I was. So I really was, and started growing an audience there, which was really cool. I think I ended up reaching like 5,000 subscribers or something like that on YouTube. But anyways, being a very entrepreneurial person, if you have an audience, naturally you start thinking, okay, what can I sell them? Like, how can I monetize this thing that I'm doing? And really, stock visual effects assets is something that I've really been passionate about since I learned about it. It's basically in compositing, which is like the field of visual effects that Action VFX serves, is you have like all those different elements that you can bring into your shot, and that really saves you time from having to build something from scratch. So let's say you need to blow something up, you can really buy stock explosions and bring that into your scene. Obviously, you have to still do some more compositing to really match it and make it seem real. But that's a concept that wasn't new, but I felt I could start doing stuff like that, because for a lot of my music video projects, I would make my own effects from scratch. So it's kind of like, well, if I can make it for myself and use it, and I do have high standards typically, so what does it look like to make it for someone else to then just buy it online and use that? And this is a story that I've told many times now, which is hilarious, because you're the pastor I always reference in that story whenever I told it. So I started working on that. And then like summer 2011, and then out of nowhere, I just quit. Out of nowhere, doubt came over me. I don't know where it came from, but it was just kind of this idea that, okay, you're wasting your time, man. Like, what, you're going to make effects, make an effects pack and sell it online? Like, this is never going to work. And which is like so dangerous. And whenever I think about it, I'm just like, wow, like all of this almost didn't happen, not because someone stopped me, but because I put, limitations on myself. So that summer I ended up just stopping working on it and just said, okay, you know what? I'm just going to focus on, stay in school, as they say, right? Stay in school. And
well, I'm hoping I was the pastor that helped you have a little bit of faith.
This is where this is going. So I quit and stopped doing it. And then one day I went to church. And that was, I think, around when Steve Jobs died. And I don't remember your sermon exactly. I just know it kind of incorporated like entrepreneurship. And I don't know what you said exactly. It's just whatever you said. I remember coming from church that
That's what my wife tells me. That's what my wife tells me. She doesn't remember anything I say. So
yeah. So I just remember after church that Sunday, I just felt like my battery had been charged. I was full on. I believed I could do anything, and especially just someone as inspiring as Steve Jobs. And again, I don't remember how exactly you mixed that up in your sermon, but I was ignited, and I just thought, okay, I'm going to go home and I'm going to finish this thing.
Wow.
Because I can do it. Like, what is stopping me? And I remember I went back home, looked at the progress I had made, and I'm like, this is garbage. So I just started over again. And I think like 2-3 weeks later, had a pack ready, selling online for like $15 a piece, and started averaging like 3 sales a day or something like that, which now you could say, oh, well, that's not a ton of money. But for a college student, it's like, hey, this is cool. Like, I am selling this thing. And so that's kind of where the journey with that happened. So all throughout college, continued, making different effects packs and selling them on my website. And then once college was done, because I left Miami in January 2014, and I went back to Tennessee.
That was sad. I remember you left all your, not all, but most of your film equipment.
Yeah, it's funny. It's this habit I have sometimes where when it's time to go to a new season, it's like, don't worry about bringing past stuff with you. Just go towards what you're going and bless someone with whatever I had before. So that's probably what I did. But yeah, once I moved to back to Johnson City, that's when I said, okay, let me go all in on this stock visual effects thing, and stop freelancing, stop the music videos. I didn't really care as much with them anyways, because my true love for film is in telling stories and stuff, not just working for hire. So I went all in, focused solely on my website, and wasn't ActionVFX yet, but it was like, okay, let's do this full time. And then in 2015 was when I had felt, okay, it's time to really take this to the next level and go after the Hollywood market. It's like, what does it look like to make effects that can be used at the highest level of production? And that's when that journey had started working on what would become ActionVFX. And then in June 2016, ActionVFX launched. And yeah, that's so I'm trying so hard to like break things down to kind of move faster, but there's a lot that went into that.
Yeah, absolutely. Question about inspiration. You talked about God inspiring you, Steve Jobs, and I had a little like 0.05%, thank God for that. And obviously like your family, your parents, your team, I'm sure everyone like played a role in your continual inspiration. And how like sometimes as an entrepreneur, you want to give up almost every week. Like what did I get myself into? Like, this is scary. And what inspired you? What are some of those things that have continued to inspire you post Action VFX, and then even like what inspires you to identify like high quality footage that people will need, especially in the film industry? Because you do have an eye, right? And as you started this experiment, like you kind of had this intuition, and I saw that. Like I saw, like you did have a tech sales, like you were way ahead of a lot of people that I knew, and like what inspires you to like develop quality VFX footage that would even sell, like there would be a demand for it?
Yeah, it's like from the like footage and effects side of things, I would say big inspiration is like I love whenever I watch movies, like my brain is always thinking on, maybe I see a scene and I think, oh, like what could have helped them do this faster? And that's kind of those things that help me think, okay, well, maybe that's an asset that we could make that would, if someone had to do this, they would be able to do it a lot faster next time. And so it's always like, as I watch and consume content, I'm rarely just looking at it just to look at it. I'm looking at it to see, okay, like what went into creating that, and how could someone recreate something like this on a budget a lot faster? Is there a place for Action VFX in there? So those are what kind of inspires me creatively. But as far as like being inspired to continue the business and keep growing the business, it's like, I think naturally all creative people, there's a unique satisfaction you can get when you see the end result of all your hard work, like watching a movie and seeing, our assets being used in there. Like that is, wholly satisfying. It's this thing that's like, wow, yes, what we're doing is not just for our own benefit. It's actually helping people around the world, artists around the world, create better effects, work faster. I remember one testimonial that we got from one visual effects supervisor, which to me is like a quote that stuck with me. And he said, Action VFX gets me home to see my family. And in our industry specifically, over time, and, like there's a lot of that element on it. And it's like stuff like that is like, yes, we are doing the right thing and the right people are being served by it, which is super awesome. And obviously teams are great. I love my team. I think early on in my entrepreneurial journey, I used to always have this desire, like, man, if only I could copy myself, this business would take off, right? Because I'm like, I feel like I know what I'm doing and I'm super passionate. So if I could just have like 3 or 4 of me, it would be great. But now I know that was like so wrong, because if I just copy myself, then, sure, I would have all the same strengths, but the same weaknesses. And a team is so much more than that. It's people that actually want to do things that I hate, right? It's like there are so many things that I just hate, and someone is actually, that's their passion. And it's figuring out how to actually work together on them. And it's like we've had many different versions of the team over
Now,
the years. It's been.
I'm looking at your team. Which role do you hate the most? Because we want to send a shout out to that person.
Well, I would say like anything, like our CFO, he helps a ton. I do love numbers, but not as much.
And your CFO is which one? It's
that'd be Tommy right here.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And it's like Carly helps me a ton. She's chief of staff now, but early on, she really was involved in like the HR side of things and admin side of things. And it's like, I love people. I love casting the vision, but sometimes you don't want to be in all those details and stuff. And so yeah, it's
nice.
But yeah, inspiration really is anywhere. But at the end of the day, one thing I've come to learn about myself that do drive me is it's like it's making sure something sees its potential. Like it's very hard for me to see the potential in something and just be fine and not go after it, if that makes sense. It's like with ActionVFX, even before it existed, was seeing the potential, like this thing can exist. And I do believe I can create this platform and I can create this library of effects. And it's like, once you have that thought, it's almost like you owe it to yourself to see it through.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah. Absolutely. And then challenges, every entrepreneur, as you know, faces challenges along the way. What were some of the biggest hurdles that you encountered, while building ActionVFX, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, no, the biggest hurdle, which is a huge blessing now. I'm super glad it happened. So the very first ActionVFX shoot was, so I was this guy living in Tennessee. I had gotten plugged in with some pyrotechnicians in Chicago, and these guys had worked on some of the Transformers movies and stuff. So the idea was, okay, I know film, I know visual effects. I'll be capturing the stuff that they blow up, but I'm not a pyro guy, so I'm not going to kill myself trying to blow things up and stuff. So I had this whole shoot planned, gonna drive to Chicago and, do explosions, like large scale explosions, fire. And anyways, like if you had asked me if I planned, I would have told you that I over planned, because I truly believe, like, man, I had like this huge binder with all kinds of notes and stuff. I'm like, I am ready. The shoot is going to go great. And I invested all of my business savings at the time on that shoot. It was like $11,000. And I was like, I'm going all in, because, these are going to be the assets that's going to take me to the next level as far as making effects that, the Hollywood market want to use. And
absolutely,
yeah, in a classic thing, you never know what you don't know until you're there and you realize, oh crap, this is not as easy as I thought it was going to be. And so the shoot didn't go well at all. Like we got some stuff, but it really wasn't good. Couldn't really sell it. Like we shot, I would say close to 100 different clips. Only 3 of them ended up making it to the website. So it was like, I remember that drive back to Tennessee and thinking like, crap, what I got wasn't good. And it's this idea of, well, I don't have any money left, right? It's like, there's the money left. And at this time, there wasn't a team yet. Luke, who ended up being our COO and then eventually became a partner in the business. That's the first time I worked with him, but he was just hired to be the behind the scenes videographer. So it's like, so really in this season, you really do feel alone, because it's really just you driving everything. But the reason I say it was a blessing in disguise is running out of money. I kind of had a choice to make. It's like, okay, well, I could either give up I could either release what I had gotten, or I could try to make another shoot happen. And then when I give up, I still believed. It's like, I would say ever since your sermon, I haven't wanted to give up anymore. So, so thanks for that. But it was, so then I didn't want to release them either, because it felt like if I did, then it wouldn't be great. And if it's not great, then what's the point? So I was like, okay, well, how do I make more? Like, how do I make another shoot? And that's when I had the idea to do a Kickstarter campaign, because I had felt that, well, really there is a need in the industry for stuff like that, because there's not a lot of companies doing, stock assets at a high level. So the very few stuff that were out there, everyone was using the same things. So if you're in the industry, you could really see, oh, it's the same, gun effects and explosions being used in every project. So I kind of thought, okay, if this thing is really going to help the visual effects community, then surely some people would support it to actually make it happen. And remember, we launched the Kickstarter campaign in October 2015. The goal was to raise $20,000, ended up raising $59,000, which was great, because ended up needing every penny of that and then some to launch.
Wait,
so I'm glad.
How much you said?
59,000.
You raised 59 through Kickstarter.
Yep,
wow.
Yep.
So, I mean, a lot of people, I mean, it's hard to get to those numbers. I mean, the community must have really, like, the whole, like, digital production video, they really believe
no, they really came through. And a big advantage was, because remember, like back in 2011, that's when I had started this. So by then I had, an audience built up of past buyers that would buy my packs, and was able to use some of that as like proof that, hey, I'm not just some random kid. Which even now I look back at the Kickstarter video, I'm like, man, you really are just some random kid asking people for money online. But yeah, super glad we almost tripled our goal, because $20,000 was not going to cut it, since ended up spending the whole $59,000 to do another shoot, and then to also hire. That's when I ended up being able to actually hire Luke to join the team full time.
And what was it about Luke, right? Because to me, you seem like you see in scripture, like these leaders that are called, the Moses, Paul, but they always had like one or two people that were we called, like, they held their hands up. Moses, Joshua, and Caleb held his hands up when he felt tired, and you see that with all great leaders. Steve Jobs had it. Anyone who's doing anything significant has at least one or two, like, straight support soldiers. It seems like Luke came right at a time where you were at a low point, and he brought an element of relief and guidance, and his giftings, right? He was just being himself, and you needed that. And what was it like? How did he fit with you, and how did he look like an angel in your eyes? Because I've been through that, and I'm going like it's like, oh my gosh, like, here's this new friend, and they're legal expert, and man, I'm so legally confused, and the next thing you know, they become your partners in life, and and so it's this weird kind of thing. What was it about him that really played a huge role with where you were at that point?
Yeah, it's I always say, like, it was a God thing, bring Luke and I together. It's my hiring skills back then were terrible, and I would say even now, I would say they're probably all right at best. So yeah, I take no credits for Luke, because originally, as I said, another friend of mine was supposed to go to Chicago with me and shoot the BTS stuff. He had to drop out at the last minute. And then I didn't even really know Luke that well at the time, but I just posted on Facebook if someone wanted to, hey, anyone want to go to Chicago to blow things up with me? And he responded and wanted to do it. But so yeah, it's funny because at the start of the trip, there's no thoughts like, oh, this is someone I'm going to work with, like, together with long term. But then after the trip, I remember on the drive back, while the shoot didn't go well, we're able to really see how he handles working under pressure. We're able to talk together more about, what I was wanting to do, what the vision was. And he was at the right season of life as well to be able to, take more risks and do something that he's, a lot more passionate about. And yeah, like it's one of those things that, naturally developed over the next few months, where it felt like, because I had been praying about that and I had been wanting to find someone that could, it's kind of like being a solopreneur is cool until it's not, right? Eventually you just kind of get tired of just like, oh, it's just me doing all of this stuff. And
it's tiring.
So it came out at the right time. And then again, to the point I was making earlier about how immature the idea that I used to have of copying myself was. It's like, yeah, he had a lot of strengths that I didn't have. Definitely like a lot more tech oriented, as far as I feel like I've always been more into the creative and psychological aspect of things. He's definitely hardcore into the tech side of things, which that was a great balance. I can be more.
Sure. And let me just interject there. And which takes me, I don't want to forget this point. I know that you guys use like the Red cinema camera, and that's transformed your work. How do you see the technology evolving at VFX industry in the future? And like, what is Luke saying about it? Like, let's refer to Luke. Luke is the source, the primary source now.
Yeah, no, it's like for the tech side of things these days, the big thing is just, AI, right? Like all the machine learning advancements that have happened, and especially in the generative sense when it comes to how that intersects with the creative field. Because obviously there are things like ChatGPT and stuff like that a lot of people use, and we do use tools like that. But it's kind of like we're at a very unique season in the visual effects industry where I do believe many things will evolve. There's already so many tools that can, create stuff from just text prompts, right? Like create videos or images and it's like, so these are a lot of the, I would say, challenges and opportunities for ActionVFX in this specific season. It's really keeping a close eye on the landscape of all those different tools. It's like, okay, well, is there a future where, the assets that we create, does that become less relevant eventually if the field of visual effects evolves to working in different ways? So it's kind of like, it's really a balance there. Really the camera side of things, we use Red cameras to shoot a lot of our stuff. And that's because we want the resolution, the dynamic range for everything, and really just future proofing our footage, because every shoot you do costs a lot of money and you really don't want to do it. And then it's like 2 years later, it's like, oh, like I really wish we did this in 6K because so we do stuff like that where we'll shoot stuff in 6K, even if we're not going to release it in 6K yet. But hey, eventually you'll be like, oh, 4K is crap, 4K. Then it's like, okay, well, we already thought ahead of that. And but really the main thing right now is the AI machine learning side of things. It's like the visual effects industry is definitely at this transition period right now. Like we're right in the middle of it, where a lot of innovative things are happening. A lot of it isn't being adopted yet into full-time production, just because those things need to be tried and tested and stuff. So things aren't going to be changing overnight, where all the studios are just going to start adopting a brand new way of doing things. But I do already see the shift. And as CEO of ActionVFX, one of my main priorities this past couple of years has been directing the company in a way that, regardless of how things evolve, we are fine and we are positioned to still help the market.
And that's exciting because you guys have already started working on some big budget, contributing towards big budget projects. I'm looking at like Jack Ryan, Spider-Man, the Last of Us. I'm sorry, the Fallout. I mean, this is huge. Like, what was your big break moment when you realized that Action VFX was changing the game?
Yeah, I would say one of the first signs was when I was actually able to convince some news sites to post about the Kickstarter campaign. Because I remember I had reached out to like some industry, like visual effects industry specific news sites, and basically everyone was just like, "Oh, we're not doing this. We don't post about Kickstarters," which I understand why. But eventually, one person said yes, and then I leveraged that person to then tell the other ones, "Oh, this place is posting about it," and then they're like, "Okay, sure, we'll post about it." So I think that was like one first thing that was like, "Okay, it seems like we're doing something that people actually want." But I remember after we launched, because at launch we were definitely considered one of the more, if not the more expensive VFX asset place in existence, because we're targeting that professional market. I remember it was like the first time we got a sale from like one of the bigger studios that we had heard of. That was like the first spark that was like, oh snap, like they just spent like hundreds of dollars on one order with us. And I was like, man, that's okay. And then more of that started coming. And very soon after, we started getting offers to, hey, like, do you guys want to do custom stuff for us and things? And that's really when it was like, wow, this is a real thing. But I also, there's been like stages of, wow, this is real. Because when you're on the outside of it, it's easy for someone to just look in and think, man, these guys are so legit. But when you're on the inside, a lot of the time you don't see that you're so legit. You just see, hey, I'm just this guy that doesn't know what I'm doing half the time, and I'm just out here trying, But so there's been many different stages where it's like, wow, this actually happened. I remember the first time, we knew of a movie that's coming out in theaters that used our stuff. That was like a big deal. And just being, even to be able to be in the theater, and it's like, oh wow, like I do remember when we're capturing this asset specifically, I was out in the cold trying to shoot this explosion and whatnot. And obviously it kind of grows with like the different types of projects, like Avengers Endgame, for example. It's like I was in like high school when the first Iron Man movie came out. So the idea that, like the fact that before that series ended with Endgame, our stuff was being used in, Spider-Man, in the Avengers, and in other movies like that was like, it's really cool. Like, it's like, there's no other way to say it other than it's just really cool to know that our work is actually contributing to make these movies happen.
Well, and it's awesome. Definitely, I mean, it's like marketing 101, right? Like you're talking about what we call reputation marketing, like to be able to be appreciated by people that have huge budgets and can be very critical about their stock footage, and to be like one of the go-tos, if not the primary go-to, that's great. And I mean, it's just something to brag about. Like, I'm happy that you're my friend, and I boast about you all the time to people. Like, hey, look at this guy, like he's a scrappy entrepreneur that he's adding assets to big budget films. Like, very few people can say that, and just with your love for entertainment, like I think it's like I think it's probably a dream come true, but yet I think in some ways maybe it's the beginning, because I think where we're going with AI, I can see you guys easily like actually getting into storytelling yourselves, and being able to even like write your own narrative,
One of my big goals is to direct movies and stuff, and that's one reason. So I moved to Nashville from Johnson City 2 months ago, and that's even like was a big reason there is. So I've had this goal ever since college to make a feature film before I'm 35.
Okay.
And the reason I said that goal was because I was already so into the entrepreneurship side of things that I felt if I didn't set like a straight target, then I would wake up and be like 50 one day, and it's be like, oh, you still haven't done this movie. So 35, I turn 32 next month. So it's kind of like time is ticking to make this thing happen. But there's definitely a lot more of a film community in Nashville than where I was living, and already started meeting some great people to make that happen. So yeah, like directing is still something I very much want to do, and in ActionVFX. Well, I don't think of it as either entrepreneur or directing.
Yeah, it's all the same.
I would say I'm probably going to do a little bit of both.
I can even see you acting, man. I don't know if anyone's ever told you, but you have like this thing about you, it's like a character. Like I see you like Atlanta meets Nashville kind of thing. Like it's like a day in the life of Rodolphe, like every day, like this Haitian dude like living in Nashville, which is now in a sense kind of becoming like Hollywood South, so it's interesting, another question. I know we got a few more minutes here. As an award-winning entrepreneur, like what advice would you give to creatives looking to turn their passion into a thriving business, especially the competitive industries like film and visual effects?
No, that's a good question. It's like one advantage I've always had is that I do truly love business as much as I love the creative side of things. I think one of the hard things for a lot of creatives is not really liking the business side of things and feeling like, well, I would need to have someone else do it and stuff. But if I could give like one advice is, it's really not as hard as you would think to get started. So many people can be so intimidated by the idea of business. It's like, at the end of the day, business is simple. It's, do you have something that people want? It's like, okay, well, can you communicate that to them? Cool. Then they buy that thing, So it's like in my brain, it's that. And I feel like, a lot of creatives just can look at it as this big giant of, oh man, like business. I didn't like math in high school. It's like, I didn't like math in high school or college, right? It's like, I'm a proud math hater. So it's like don't put all those, weird expectations and limitations on yourself. And I would say the other thing too is to just start. There's, especially in like startup culture, there's this idea that, even before you start, you need to, who do I know? I need an investor? I need seed funding. I need to write a business plan and stuff. And like, honestly, I've never done a business plan. Like I'm not even like, as far as sitting down and it's like, what's the business plan? It's like, like, who cares? I want to make this thing. Let me go make it and you'll figure it out. And you'd be very surprised how much you can get away with without over formalizing everything. So yeah, I would say to any creative, like your strength is that you're a creative thinker. Like, believe me when I say it, like, I'm very glad I didn't go to business school and got an MBA and just have all the creativity stripped out to just like, this is, how it's like, no, you can do it. Just go ahead and get started. Definitely do learn as much as you can
Yeah,
whether
like
it's from
learn in real time, like learn based on the problem. Because I think, like you said, like sometimes when you go to universities, you're learning so much theory and compliance and worst case scenarios, best case scenarios, that by the time it's like pastors who go to seminary, right? They call it cemetery. You know, I'm sure you've heard your dad talk about that. Like it literally kills your faith instead of inspires your faith, because faith is really lived out and passionate when you're dealing with real problems, real people, real community, and not a academic bubble, you know, that tends to be insulated from the everyday struggle. So what I'm hearing from you is like just do it. And but I think a lot of like multi-million billionaire, like the Peter Thales of the world, that's what their advice is. Like, it's cool to learn theory, and if you have an opportunity, do it. But it's even more powerful when you're learning theory, even as you're doing it, because it sticks. Like the lessons stick. And you know, what is your creative process when working on a VFX collections? How do you ensure the project maintains the highest standard? Like, have you implemented like certain protocols? Like, how do you get the quality that you guys are getting? Because that's tough, man. Efficiency versus quality, quantity versus quality. Like, you know, you're always tempted as an entrepreneur, like you want to scale, but it's so hard to maintain quality. Like, what's your secret? What are you guys doing?
Yeah, it's like, I mean, we definitely don't have it all figured out. It's for me, I'll kind of answer this question on two sides, like just me personally, and then what we try to do as a team. So it's like for me personally, when approaching anything like that, the first thing is going to be, what's the end goal? You know, if let's say we're making some blood assets or something, it's going to be like, okay, what's the end goal? Like, what will this help a user do? What types of shots will, you know, with this asset pack help a user do? So you kind of start there, and then you reverse engineer it, because then it's like, okay, one advantage I had is, you know, not just knowing cinematography, but also visual effects. So it's like I understand enough about how to use the thing, but then also know how to capture it, how to light it, which lenses are needed, so on and so forth. So it kind of starts there, like with the end in mind. What types of shots would this help someone do? And then you kind of go, and it's like, okay, well, how are we actually going to film this thing? How are we actually going to, you know, make it happen for real? It's like, okay, if we're wanting blood to like splash around, okay, we're probably gonna need a air cannon or something like that, and fake blood and things. So, but it really always starts with the end in mind, and what would be. It's like one thing. So I ended up making like this book for the team, right? Because eventually it was time to scale. I can't spend all my time working on the assets directly, so you kind of have a, you know, product team to work on some stuff. And so this like book thing I made for them, one thing it says is, you know, make the decision that's going to make a better product for compositors. And because you can't really pinpoint every single aspect of it, it's still very much creativity. But if everyone has like the end goal, like, well, I'm a compositor, how would I want this asset delivered to me? What angles would I want it as? Or if it's like a digital asset, then, you know, what, you know, features, what render passes, what lighting and things like that I would want. So it really starts there. It's like, if we're compositors, what's the best thing? And then we reverse engineer it. And that's kind of the creative process. And then, as I mentioned, inspiration just really comes from not just what our users are requesting, because that's a big part of it as well. We never want to get so like drunk off our own medicine that we start thinking, oh, we don't need to listen to users. We know what they want. It's like, sometimes we know what they want. Sometimes we go and do something and it feels spectacularly.
For that evaluation assessment I told you.
What role has your faith and your family played in that?
No, yeah. I mean, faith is everything. You know, it's hard for me to even think about what role has my faith played in my entrepreneurial journey, because it's kind of like faith is all encompassing, right? There's no separating it from any aspect of life. So really on a daily basis, like this morning, I woke up, read the Bible and stuff. That's the morning routine I try to maintain on a daily basis. And it's not even like, oh, it's for entrepreneurship. No, it's for life. And, your beliefs just flow naturally into everything that you do. Pray a ton. I pray a ton. I try to run my business in ways that align with my Christian values. And people notice those things too. And it is worth it at the end of the day. And as far as family goes, I have nothing but thanks to give to my parents, my mom, my dad. Like, they've each played such a big role in, all the success that I have now, from my dad being the one that brought home that camera back when I was 10 to the camera that I bought, after graduating high school. My mom was the one who directly, helped me purchase that. And I remember begging her, like, Mom, like, if you just like help me get this camera, I promise I'll make money from it. And ended up being a great investment, definitely an awesome investment there. But the biggest thing because we're Haitians, right? And if you know anything about immigrant parents, the stereotype is you're either going to be a doctor, a lawyer, and, you're not going to be bringing none of that creative stuff. Oh, I'm going to college to study film. It's like most Haitian parents would definitely be praying against. Yeah, it's just like, you gotta think straight. And one thing I would always thank my parents on is, from the very beginning, they had this weird, unique ability to just trust me and my brother. Like, they didn't really put us in any way to feel like, oh, there's one path that you can go. You have to do this, you have to do that. They were surprisingly very open to us being whatever we wanted to be, as long as we truly cared about it and we put in the work towards it. Like, they definitely weren't gonna be raising any deadbeats and stuff. So in seasons where they feel like, man, this guy doesn't care about life, they'll be on you like an immigrant parent, but it's not on you on one specific way. So I've always appreciated that freedom that I had to truly feel like, hey, if movies is what I want to be involved in, I know my parents will support that. If trying to do entrepreneurship and things like that is what I want to go into, like, I know they will support that. And I'll say one thing. So in college, I ended up, originally was supposed to get a bachelor's degree, and I ended up leaving early after I got an associate's degree, mainly because I got to the point of seeing like, okay, I'm already doing all this business stuff. And at this point, this college thing that I'm having to pay out of pocket for is really not adding to what I want to do. I felt like I could do a lot more if I could just focus on that, which haven't regretted that decision at all, to just get an associate's degree. Still haven't really used it for anything since anyways. But even then, I remember the first time I talked to my mom and said, I'm thinking I'm going to just get an associate's degree and leave college early. And yeah, she of course almost killed me right then and there. Like, what are you saying? Like, she was definitely very against it. But then as the news kind of marinated a bit, both her and my dad, they were saying, okay, he's not saying these things because he wants to, go sell drugs or anything like that. It's like, no, he has a plan and he's thought it through. And I've always appreciated that trust that they've had to I guess, let me fail or let me succeed, and know that they don't need to just baby me all the time. So huge respect for them, for sure.
Yeah, and I definitely see that. I see the way that they raised you guys, and it was really solid. Both you and your brother are very mature, and man, I'm telling you, man, we're definitely down here in Miami, man. We're definitely proud of you guys, and I know your brother, has played a critical role on different aspects, and just having your family support, right? That's like huge, man. That's like worth $1 million. Their prayers, and so again, I want to thank you, man, for being on this podcast. I definitely want to have you back in a few weeks or months to discuss new projects. I did want to ask you more about new projects, but I have to jump into another meeting. But man, I think this was like a good kind of intro, and I think the world needs to hear your voice. I think you're like I said, you're more than just a assets, digital stock footage guy, right? You're more than an entrepreneur. I think you are a true motivator in a very real, authentic, funny, cool way, and your sarcasm and your humor is one of a kind. You have a way of correcting people in a funny way. Like the million texts that my software sent you. It was like I think you said what'd you write? You said your reminders are a lot. Laugh out loud. And that's the Rodolphe I know. That's the Rodolphe I know. Like always correcting me, but with humor and through like kind of like subtle sarcasm, and that would make good film and good production. So take that into your stories, and I'm excited. I cannot wait till the show Rodolphe comes out, and it's just about you and the day in the life. I know I really believe I'm prophesying that. Like I think you're an interesting person, and you have an interesting take on things, and that's why people love you and like you, and you're just authentically you. You're real. You're not, and you're walking in love. And you have a way of correcting people with love. So again, I appreciate you, man. And for those who are watching, please check out their website, ActionVFX.com. It's on the description on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and on YouTube. Man, this company is amazing. They're going to grow. They're going to with the use of AI and because I don't care what AI is there. You still need creativity with AI. You still got to be intelligent and know how to use prompts and tell your story and edit and figure things out. And know your market. So AI is not going to replace human creativity, intelligence. It just means that those who use it are going to they're going to use it like they were using everything else that was available, and they're just going to be more creative. So I'm not afraid if you're a mover and shaker like you and me, and what I've seen in you, you're just going to learn how to optimize it and use it in new ways. So again, thank you. For sure. And man, God bless you, man. Stay safe out there. Watch out for these hurricanes. But tell your family I said hi, and any last words to our viewers?
No, I would say, thank you for having me. This was definitely fun. Let's do one. Let's do it a year from now. I think I have a lot more cooler updates to share based on some things that we're working on. Whenever you're ready. Last thing I'll just say to the audience watching is just remember to never shut a door on yourself. Stop telling yourself no. There's enough people out there telling you no for things. So don't be one of those people to your own self. If you have the vision and you see it, you can make it happen. Because, hey, I don't consider myself to be a genius, and it's been such a blessing to have gone through this whole journey and still going right now. And almost didn't happen, but you just have to have the belief. So that'd be my message for anyone watching.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you. And all right, man. Thank you. And peace out.
Welcome to the Jack Hakimian Podcast, where we dive deep into life, embracing the contrast. From culture to faith, art to finances, politics, and everything in between.